same painful point. And I think the more corruption becomes a problem to deal with, you're going to see protests. Now that it's proven to the world that protests can work, you're going to see them, and maybe we'll finally see some change.
You know, one of the other things with all these countries in Middle East, what has been happening, you know that the immigrants, for instance, in Egypt, or immigrants in Libya are fleeing.
Right.
And you know, all of a sudden you find out that this country with a 35% unemployment have tremendous number of immigrants working for them. For instance, Chinese had like 200,000 people in there.
India,
and
Bangladesh
Tunisian,
also.
Bangladeshi, and of course Indian and Bangladesh, they sent planes to get the people out. I don't know how many people are up there, but now they're scared, they're running, and they're going back to their country. And that's going to create another wave. And I hope some of these countries realize you have a 30% unemployment and you're still importing people for work here. It's very obvious that the people who are employing people don't trust their own people.
That
needs to improve.
You have a very wide division between the haves and the have-nots.
That's right. I mean, it's like you have your own engineers in Saudi Arabia. They have engineering colleges they're producing, but they import. Same with UAE. I mean, you just don't see that. I guess we have this H-1B and the other problem. I really think it's economic bias. You buy them cheap from the outside, and I really think that you keep them humble because they're so hungry for your visa. They will do almost anything at any time. So I really believe that some of the discomfort in these Middle East countries, they brought it on upon themselves by importing labor from poor countries around the region.
Well, it's about time that all of these things took a toll on the one thing we readily identify out of India, and that is the big Indian wedding. You know, the big Indian wedding, from Bollywood movies and even to the new middle class showing off in parts, the Indian wedding has really become a symbol unto itself. But now Indian weddings are getting too big, says the government. According to the food minister of India, he is actually condemning these extravagant feasts as the poor face increasing costs of flour, onions, and other basics. In other words, the big fat Indian wedding is about to lose weight if the government has its way. And the reasons are simple, because there's the soaring price of onions, flour, and other basic foodstuffs is causing serious political damage. And therefore, all of the rich and famous, those who have money, for them to throw a lavish wedding when the state of the country is struggling and inflation is so high, it's considered not just poor taste, but it's actually considered damaging and could cause these folks to come under line of fire from the government, from angry people who see these displays.
Big fat weddings put a lot of pressure on girls. Well, I really believe the family of the girls, it puts a lot of pressure. I think the best thing they can do, if they're afraid of the government intervention, have destination weddings.
Well, you know,
get out of the country, you know.
It doesn't help that you have these examples that get so much press and so much attention. You know, recently, the spectacular ceremony of Vikram Chetwal and the daughter of steel magnate Lakshmi Mittal, that was a 30 million euro wedding.
Whoa.
Excessive. I mean, there was no reason for it to have been quite that large, except for the fact that you had two magnates getting married to each other. But that's the example. That's the thing we all want to strive to be. And we look at these Bollywood movies and we throw these lavish parties. I don't think we often sit down and realize how much waste we generate, how much food we throw away. And yet in India, if you think this is the new middle class and the way of life, one-upping the other, keeping up with the Joneses, there is a whole subclass economy that's not getting what they deserve and looking at these weddings and getting angry.
Here in the United States, particularly in Washington region, restaurants and the catering companies and the others have a rule. If you have leftover food, you drop it at the central kitchen. That then feeds the homeless people. But I don't know if such is the case in India or not, you know.
I wish there was, because in India, it's considered a show of wealth and of prosperity to have many different kinds of dishes. The reality is, how many people actually eat those dishes, and you end up throwing them away. So if we had such a system, you would think that it would thrive in India.
Well,
But really, we need to change our
Big fat weddings
mindset.
are fun to go to. Big fat weddings are not that fun to give, you know. But you do it because you have gone to so many of them yourselves, so you're obligated to create one of those. So, and in fact, it's so popular in America. People get amazed at how these big Indian weddings, or big Chinese weddings, or big Korean weddings, you know, how do they do it? Where is the money coming from?
It's coming from years and years of saving. But I guess what I would like to introduce is maybe the idea of modesty. You know, what matters is the wedding. What matters is the life after the wedding, the longevity of the marriage. And if we can't sustain that, you can have the biggest wedding day in the world, but that can't sustain a marriage in the long term.
I think there are still communities that I have seen. They'll go get married in a temple or get married in Gurdwara and then throw one lavish bash as a reception. That's fine, you know, I mean, that works.
To each their own.
Now, here's a piece of good news that you don't see very often. You know, there was a time when everybody believed that if you did not manufacture in Asia and China, that you're a dinosaur. You really don't understand. There's just such an economy of labor value up there that it'll be dumb not to get it done over there. Well, that dumbness, all of a sudden, everybody's realizing that China is not that great a place to get your stuff done. Unless, of course, you are a mega company like Apple and the others, where you can make sure that your quality team is right there, the people who are designing it is right there, rejecting if it is not of the quality and the others. But for most manufacturers...
Most small to medium-sized businesses.
That's right. I mean, you get what they give you. And the quality has been a problem. You know, you've been reading about it in the papers all these years. Now the companies have finally figured it out. The wage rate in China have now gone from 60 cents to $1.25 and $1.50. That's the number one thing that has occurred. Number two thing that has occurred. You know, in manufacturing, you can use robots. Today, there are more robots used in GM factory than anywhere else. So the robots, their values come down from, let's say, $100 to, say, $20 and $30. That's how far they